Manny Ramirez, once the pure embodiment of greatness in American baseball, a hitter whose mere presence in the batter's box could silence an entire stadium, forcing tens of thousands to hold their breath as if history itself was about to unfold. His swing was both elegant and cruel, smooth like music yet violent in its result, a perfect fusion of street-born instinct and elite major league precision. At his peak, Manny piled up numbers that still feel unreal. 555 home runs, a .312 career batting average, 1,831 RBIs, 12 All-Star selections, 9 Silver Slugger awards, and 2 World Series titles with the Boston Red Sox. In 2004, he didn't just help win a championship. He became the face of a city's emotional release, earning World Series MVP as Boston finally broke an 86-year curse. To baseball fans, Manny was proof that some players operate beyond systems and strategies, that genius sometimes arrives fully formed and refuses to be molded. His statistics alone place him among the greatest hitters the game has ever known. Yet from that towering summit, Manny's quiet tragedy began, because fame never brought him belonging. It only amplified the loneliness that had followed him since childhood. Manny wasn't born into cheers or predictions of greatness. He came from the Dominican Republic, from narrow streets and dusty fields where baseball wasn't entertainment. It was survival. For children like Manny, a bat was a lifeline, not a toy. Long before he understood language, Manny understood contact. The feel with meeting ball, the instant clarity of a perfect swing. Adults saw his gift early, but no one knew how to protect it. His talent grew wild, uncontained, powerful but exposed. Manny learned to express himself with his hands because words failed him, and that imbalance followed him into every stage of his life. Baseball spoke for him when nothing else could. When his family immigrated to Washington Heights in New York, Manny didn't find the promised land. He found noise, pressure, and isolation. He spoke broken English, moved carefully, and learned quickly that silence was safer than being misunderstood. School didn't give him confidence. Social spaces didn't give him comfort. Only the baseball field felt familiar, a place that asked nothing of him except to hit. There, he didn't have to explain himself. There he belonged. And so Manny shrank his world, pouring everything into baseball while letting the rest fade away. It kept him alive, but it also trapped him. When Manny was drafted into Major League Baseball, the world saw a miracle. What Manny felt was fear. He was suddenly thrust into a system that demanded not just production, but personality. The Cleveland Indians saw a weapon, a lineup centerpiece, a generator of wins. They didn't see a young man still learning how to exist outside the batter's box. No one taught Manny how to handle media, pressure, or the unspoken rules of clubhouse politics. They just told him to perform, and he did. Home runs rained down. Pitchers feared him. Stadiums erupted. But when games ended, Manny returned to silence, sitting alone in locker rooms, surrounded by teammates yet deeply disconnected. He was celebrated for his numbers, not understood for his humanity. That disconnect followed him everywhere. Manny didn't speak often, and when he didn't, the baseball world filled in the gaps for him. Silence became laziness. Difference became attitude. Complexity became a problem. The media simplified him because they didn't know how to explain him. Manny was too instinctive, too inward, too different for a sport that wanted clear heroes and villains. His genius kept him safe on the field, but off it, he was always alone. Then came Boston, a city starving for redemption and demanding more than performance. The $160 million contract didn't just make Manny rich. It made him a symbol. Boston didn't want hits. It wanted passion, explanation, public emotion. And Manny couldn't give that. Still, he delivered what mattered most. He helped shatter the curse, helped bring the championship home, and etched his name into history. But the pressure never eased. It intensified. Every misstep was magnified. Every moment of quiet was seen as disrespect. Manny retreated further, because that was all he knew how to do when the noise became unbearable. It was in Boston that Manny became a phrase instead of a person. Manny being Manny, for words that erased context, pain, and complexity. They turned him into a joke, a caricature, a highlight reel punchline. A fly ball admired too long, a jog instead of sprint, a moment of confusion. all dismissed with that phrase. No one asked why. No one cared to look deeper. Manny's silence made it easy. The label stuck, and with it, his humanity slowly disappeared. The clubhouse was never home for Manny. He wasn't a leader because no one taught him how to lead. He wasn't vocal because words had never been his strength. Coaches saw him as unmanageable, not wounded. Teammates saw him as distant, not overwhelmed. Manny showed up, hit, and disappeared into himself. He contributed but never connected. And that floating existence, not fully in, not fully out, became his lifelong position in the game. When the first positive PD test hit, the world felt vindicated. The story was complete, neat, and easy. Genius. Weird. Now flawed. Manny didn't defend himself. He didn't perform remorse. He didn't tell a redemption story. He stayed silent, not because he didn't care, but because silence was the only way he had ever survived. That silence cost him everything. The second positive test sealed his fate. MLB closed the door without ceremony. No farewell game. No final applause. Just a quiet exit. The way Manny had always lived. The Hall of Fame doors never opened. Year after year, his name was missing despite numbers that screamed immortality. Manny didn't campaign. He didn't beg. He didn't explain. He accepted exclusion the same way he accepted everything else. Quietly, that absence became normal to the world. But for Manny, it was another reminder that greatness alone wasn't enough. After MLB, Manny wandered. Japan, Taiwan, Mexico, smaller fields, smaller crowds, softer lights. He played not for glory, but because baseball was still the only language that made sense to him. The swings were still beautiful. The rhythm was still there. But the world had moved on. The cheers were gone. Manny didn't chase them. He simply kept playing, holding on to the last piece of himself that had never betrayed him. Now at 53, Manny lives a quiet life with his family. No headlines. No debates. No demands. He doesn't resent the game. He doesn't rewrite history. He accepts that some doors will never open again. The tragedy of Manny Ramirez isn't that he failed. It's that he was misunderstood for so long that the world forgot there was a man behind the myth. His story is about collapse. It's about survival. A genius who never learned how to speak in a world that demanded words and who paid the price for that silence. Manny Ramirez gave baseball everything, and in return it gave him glory, but never peace, never open again. The tragedy of Manny Ramirez isn't that he failed. It's that he was misunderstood for so long that the world forgot there was a man behind the myth. His story is about collapse. It's about survival. A genius who never learned how to speak in a world that demanded words and who paid the price for that silence. Manny Ramirez gave baseball everything, and in return it gave him glory, but never peace.